Hello, today I'm looking at Majjhima Nikaya number 19, the Dvedhavitakka Sutta. It's all been translated in the Nanamoli Bodhi version as two kinds of thought, and it's a sutta delivered by Buddha to the bhikkhus or monks, and the whole sutta revolves around how to deal with arising thoughts. So Buddha states that before his enlightenment, he thought about dividing his thoughts into two classes. The first class was thoughts of sensual desire, ill will and cruelty, and the second thought was of renunciation, non-ill will and non-cruelty. So, he continues, sitting there diligent, ardent and resolute, a thought of sensual desire arises. The Buddha recognizes this. He realizes this will lead to his own affliction and affliction of others. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties and leads away from nibbana. And he goes on to say that where he considers this leads to his own affliction, the feeling subsided. And when he considered it leads to affliction in others, the feeling also subsided. And when he considered it obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties and leads away from nibbana, the feeling subsided. So whenever a thought of sensual desire arose, he abandoned it, removed it and did away with it. The sutta then goes on to repeat the above steps about when the thought of ill will arises and how to deal with it, and then also thoughts about cruelty and similarly how he dealt with it. He then goes on to provide an allegory and talking about during the rainy season when there's verdant crops, and just as a cowherder constantly taps and pokes his cattle to keep them away from other people's crops for which he could be punished, so too the Buddha saw in unwholesome states danger, degradation and defilement. So in constant attention to stop the mind straying into areas that cause trouble. And then the Buddha then talks about the thought of renunciation arising in him while sitting there diligent, ardent and resolute. The thought of renunciation does not lead to affliction in himself and others. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties and leads to nibbana. If he thinks and ponders on this, there is nothing to fear from it. But, and there Buddha issues a warning, with excessive thinking and pondering, the body tires from it. Then the mind becomes strained and loses concentration. To counter this, he steadied his mind internally, quietened it, brought it to singleness and concentrated it again. Here the mind was then not strained. So he then repeats the above advice, but instead of renunciation, talks about non-cruelty and non-ill will and how to foster them. So in summary, Buddha says, whatever is frequently thought about and pondered upon will then become the overriding inclination of the mind. So thinking about and pondering on renunciation means the abandonment of the thought of sensual desire, because the mind is not thinking about sensual desire. Similarly, thinking and pondering about non-ill will means thinking about ill will has to be abandoned. Equally so with cruelty. And again he gives an allegory. And this time it's in the dry season, when there's no crops to be trampled, And he says the cow herder has only to watch his cows, be mindful of their presence. So too, Buddha says, he only had to be mindful of renunciation, non-ill will and non-cruelty. Through the above, Buddha states tireless energy was aroused in him, unremitting mindfulness, tranquil and untroubled with his mind concentrated and unified. So, secluded from sensual pleasures and unwholesome states, he entered the jhanas and obtained enlightenment. And there's a repeat of the whole process that Buddha went through at the time for the enlightenment, which is also mentioned in Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 4, MN4. So ignorance was banished, true knowledge arose, darkness was banished and light arose. And the sutta concludes with another allegory from Buddha, and this time he's talking about a herd of deer living near a succulent low-lying marsh, and a man wished them harm, so he closed off the safe path, opened up a false path, and set up a decoy and a dummy. But another man came along, wanting to make sure of the deer's welfare and protection. So he reopened the safe path, closed the false path, and removed the decoy and dummy. So Buddha explains what he means by this allegory. The low-lying marsh is a term for sensual pleasures. The herd of deer are beings. The man desiring harm is Mara, the evil one. The false path is the wrong eightfold path. The decoy is delight and lust. The dummy is ignorance. However, the man desiring the welfare of the deer, or the people, is the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened. The safe path is the noble eightfold path. The dummy and decoy are destroyed. In conclusion, he says, this is what Buddha has done for his followers. So meditate, do not delay, or you will regret it later. And that's the end of Majjhima Nikaya number 19. Thanks for watching.